We are the YouTube channel A Body Like Bruce. Today we are bringing you an old magazine by Black Belt, martial arts magazine, probably from around the 80s or 90s, titled Bob Wall Remembers Bruce Lee by Don Wariner and Bob Wall. It states, Bob Wall is the only martial artist to have appeared in 3 Bruce Lee movies. The first was Return of the Dragon, that may have been Fist of Fury, everywhere else but America. Released in 1972, that might be Fist of Fury actually. And last was Game of Death, released in 1978. The most memorable role for Bob Wall, however, was that of the evil O'Hara in 1973's Enter the Dragon. And at this particular time this magazine was published, Bob Wall had spoken with Black Belt Martial Arts magazine about his experiences with the legendary Little Dragon and his influence Lee had on him. And that statement is by Don Wariner. 30 years later, they talk on Bruce Lee. Black Belt magazine. How did you first meet Bruce Lee, Bob? Bob Wall. I first met him in Los Angeles, Chinatown, around 1963 or 64, at a kung fu demonstration that Bob Wall disrupted a little. There were only about half a dozen non-Chinese at the seminar, him being one of them, and the demonstrator challenged any karate practitioner in the audience to come up and hit him. 3 people went up and did shuto chops. It's like I think it's like a knife hand to his arm, but none of them hurt him. Then the demonstrator said to the 3 karate guys, "Let me hit you," and they all said, "No, no way." So Bob stood up and said, "You can hit me." Then he went up on stage. The demonstrator was pretty clever, so he hit him hard on the wrist. There was a little redness, but Bob said it didn't hurt. Well, this guy did a little pirouette and fell down, then left the stage. Black Belt. What happened next? Bob Wall. I realized I'd ruined this guy's demonstration. I started to walk off the stage with a friend of mine, Bob Osmond, who was a pretty famous martial artist in his day. He said to me, "Do you realize how few non-Chinese are here and how many Chinese there are? And you've just wrecked this guy's demonstration, Bob." We tried to make our way to the door without running. Then a Chinese man approached him, and he figured he was going to have to clock this guy. But instead, he stuck out his hand and said, "Hi, I'm Bruce Lee," and that's the funniest thing I've seen in a long time. I like you. You're as cocky as I am. I was just about to go up and do the same thing, but I'm not a karate practitioner. We wound up standing outside the restaurant until 6 a.m. talking about the martial arts. That was the beginning of our great friendship, Bob Wall says. Black Belt magazine. Everyone talks about how fast Bruce Lee was. What was your opinion, Bob? Well, Bruce was absolutely one of the fastest of the fast. But we had a talk about that one day. He said, "You know, Bob, if you took Mike Stone, Joe Louis, Chuck Norris and yourself and measured your speed, the difference would be practically none." Bruce felt that the speed that should be measured is the time it takes to bridge the gap between you and your opponent. He was interested in getting in and getting out, and that is what separated him from most. Black Belt. How would you describe his technique? Bob Wall. Bruce's technique was all about power. He was very powerful. Remember that he was a small man, about 3 feet 7, 5 feet 7 inches and between 140 and 150 pounds. Although he always appeared bigger. So we're going to make this bigger so we can actually read it. It's very hard with these pictures in the background, so we're going to see if we can make it bigger. Bruce's technique was all I'm not too sure what that word is. Let's ad-lib there. You don't know what that word is. It's all a method of his dynamism. Dynamism. Every technique he threw was powerful and clean. He was a brilliant martial artist. Black belt. What was it like to work with him on the movie set? Bob Wall. One time when we were filming Return of the Dragon with Bruce and Chuck, that would be Way of the Dragon there, I was not in the scene, they were shooting it, so I sat down. Bruce came up and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm not in the scene, so I'm reading a book." Bruce got very upset and said, "You should be behind the camera, doing this and doing that." I never sat down on the set again. Part of Bruce's brilliance was that he got in and studied everything. He was always interested in everything they had into this collaboration. Black belt. How competitive was Lee? Bob Wall. Everywhere in Bruce's house there was workout equipment, in the bathroom, in the living room, even in the kitchen. One time we were in his office and he had a 125-pound barbell on his desk. He lifted it over his head. So I said, "That's nothing," and picked up the weight. Next thing I knew, Bruce got this look in his eyes and said, "Oh yeah, try this." Then he jumped onto a pull-up bar and started doing leg lifts. I've seen people do leg lifts before with a swinging motion, but Bruce did them very slowly until his nose touched his kneecaps. That's the way it was with him. He was always going to do one more push-up or one more sit-up. No matter what, he was always going to best you. Black belt. What was it like filming Into the Dragon? Wall. We worked 6 days a week and sometimes 7. There was a great spirit of camaraderie, and everyone, John Saxon, Jim Kelly and Anna Capri, put in so much energy. About 3 weeks into it, everyone started realizing that we had lighting in a bottle and got energized by that. It was a lot of fun and a lot of hard work. Black belt. Who did the fight choreography for the film? Bob Wall. I did it, and so did Bruce. I did the fight scene choreography in the woods when John Saxon was attacked here in LA in Griffith Park. It's when the guys wanted the money. They said, "Hey Roper, the boss wants his money," etc., etc. After seeing what we had done in Hong Kong, was so impressed that he asked Bruce if he could have his fight scenes reshot. Bruce said okay. So when we returned from Hong Kong, he gathered all his black belts and reshot them. However, all the fights shot in Hong Kong were done by Bruce. He had his little stick man drawings for each scene, and he knew exactly the way he wanted them shot, and that is the way he did them. That is why they are still considered the standard in fight scenes. Black belt. How did you get involved in Into the Dragon? Bob Wall. I got a letter one day from Bruce when he was still in Hong Kong, asking me if I wanted to be in Into the Dragon. He said in that letter, which I still have, "The pay will not be great, but it will be the best martial arts film ever made." He was sure right about that one, as here we are 30 years later still talking about it. Bruce had asked Chuck Norris to do Into the Dragon, but by then Chuck had decided he wanted to do leading roles. When he said no, Bruce wrote to Bob Wall. It was one of the smartest things Bob had ever done. Black belt. Why did Lee use you in 3 of his 5 films? Bob Wall. I would like to think it was because we were good friends, but I know that Bruce always thought of the picture first. He said, I want to really hit you in this movie, and Bob said, go for it, and he did. When you see him get hit by the flying sidekick, it is for real. Remember that back then, we never used wires or padding. Bruce once used a small piece of foam rubber, which he placed under his sock when he hit me in the head with a roundhouse kick, but it was just to prevent me from getting hit. So he was thinking of Bob Wall at the time. About the interviewer, Don Warner is the president of, or was the president of Rising Sun Productions, the company that recently completed the life and legend of Bob Wall. Okay, and there's a website here, Rising Sun Productions.net. So there they are, John Saxon, Bruce Lee and Bob Wall on the set. This flip here was actually done by this other guy. He's on Kung Fu Hustle. He's the landlord's husband, right? And he's Chuck Norris, Bob Wall, and that looks like, is that Mike Stone? Not too sure if that's the one that Priscilla Presley was being taught by, and then she played around Elvis. She cheated on Elvis with this guy, right? Well, she was lonely. She was left at home all by herself, and she got sick of that while Elvis was on tour. So she confided in that guy, and they got together, I guess. Okay, so it's a very short magazine there, but we hope that you enjoyed that we brought it to you. It was pretty interesting, we found. It's a pity it was short. It's probably just an article that was in Black Belt magazine, September 2003, it says down the bottom here. It's quite a good article by Bob Wall and Don Warringer. If you liked it, then give us a like, add your comments below the video and tell us all about it if you feel you need to, and we'll get back to you on your comments as soon as possible. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, A Body Like Bruce, and then share this video as well as our other videos on our channel with all your friends, family and others that you know that may be hardcore Bruce Lee fans. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, our latest created video upload. We really hope you enjoyed it.